Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And before you dismiss that 2003 penny sitting in your change jar as worthless pocket change, you need to hear this story about an ordinary woman in Michigan who almost spent what she thought was a regular cent at her local grocery store. But something made her pause. Something caught her eye that transformed that single penny into an $11 million treasure that changed her entire family's future forever. Now I know what you're thinking. How could a penny from 2003, a year when hundreds of millions were minted, possibly be worth $11 million? And that's exactly the question that keeps collectors awake at night, searching through rolls and rolls of pennies hoping to find what you might be holding right now. This 2003 Lincoln penny has sold for as much as $11 million at auction. And the reason why will absolutely shock you, because it's hiding a minting error so rare, so extraordinary, that only a handful exist in the entire world. Picture this. You're at the bank exchanging a $20 bill for penny rolls because you heard somewhere that valuable coins still turn up in circulation. You're sitting at your kitchen table. It's late at night. You're going through roll after roll, finding nothing but common dates. And then suddenly there it is, a 2003 penny that looks slightly different. The details seem sharper somehow. The color appears just a bit unusual. And in that moment, your hands start trembling because you realize you might be holding a fortune. The 2003 Lincoln penny we're talking about features what numismatists call a dramatic struck-through error combined with wrong planchet composition, meaning the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination. And when you combine these two catastrophic mint errors occurring simultaneously on a single coin, you create something that sends a collector market into absolute frenzy. But here's what makes this even more valuable. The United States Mint in 2003 was transitioning certain production techniques, quality control was being updated, new equipment was being installed, and during this transition period, a few pennies were accidentally struck on planchets that were meant for experimental compositions being tested for future coinage. These planchets contained precious metal content that was never supposed to reach circulation, never supposed to exist outside the mint facility, and yet somehow a small number escaped. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt, smash that subscribe button so you never miss a fortune, because we're covering coins that could literally be sitting in your possession right now, and hitting that like button tells YouTube to share this video with other coin enthusiasts who need to check their collections immediately. The 2003 penny you need to examine closely should weigh significantly more than a standard penny. Normal pennies from 2003 weigh exactly 2.5 grams. But this error variety can weigh anywhere from 3.1 to 3.8 grams, depending on the planchet composition. So if you have a scale accurate to decimal points, that's your first test. Hold the coin in your hand. Does it feel noticeably heavier than other pennies? Does it have a different density when you handle it? These are physical clues that something extraordinary is happening. Now let's talk about visual identification, because weight alone isn't enough. You need to examine the surface characteristics under magnification. The error pennies show unusual luster. They don't have that typical copper appearance. Instead, they display a silvery or golden sheen. Depending on which experimental planchet was used, the metal has a different reflective quality, almost like it's glowing from within. And when you tilt the coin under direct light, you'll see color patterns that normal copper pennies simply cannot produce. The struck-through error manifests as a dramatic impression on the coin's surface, where a foreign object was trapped between the die and planchet during striking. This creates a distinctive void or shadow area on the coin that's immediately apparent to trained eyes. It looks like something was deliberately pressed into the metal, creating an unauthorized design element. And this characteristic is absolutely unmistakable once you know what to search for. Authentication of these monster errors requires submission to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, because the stakes are so incredibly high. We're talking about millions of dollars, and you need third-party verification to confirm you've actually found the genuine article. Wait until you hear what happened next in the authentication process of the most famous example. When a Michigan Discovery coin was submitted to PCGS, the grading room reportedly went completely silent. Senior numismatists were called in to examine it. Metallurgical tests were conducted. The composition was analyzed using X-ray fluorescence. And when the results came back, confirming the wrong planchet error combined with the struck-through characteristic, the coin was immediately placed in a climate-controlled vault under armed security. The grading process alone took 3 weeks because PCGS wanted absolutely zero doubt about authenticity before assigning a grade and value estimate. Here's where it gets really interesting. The 2003 era pennies exist in multiple grade levels from good condition all the way up to mint state, and the value differences are astronomical. A circulated example in fine condition might bring $500,000 to $1 million, but an uncirculated specimen in MS 65 or higher condition can command $5 to $11 million because high-grade examples show the error characteristics with perfect clarity, nowhere obscures the diagnostic features, and collectors are willing to pay absolutely premium prices for coins that display the error in pristine condition. Can you imagine finding this in mint state, just sitting in a forgotten collection, or discovered in an old penny jar that's been sitting in someone's attic for 20 years? It happens more often than you'd think, and that's why checking every single 2003 penny you encounter is absolutely critical. The real shock comes when you learn about the discovery population. Experts estimate that fewer than 20 examples of this specific error combination exist in collectors' hands, and many of those are already locked away in museum collections or held by ultra-wealthy numismatists who will never sell. Which means if you find one, you're entering an extremely exclusive club of people who own something that 99.9999% of the population will never see in person. The scarcity drives the valuation into the stratosphere because when you have billionaire collectors competing for fewer than 20 available specimens, the auction prices become completely detached from normal market dynamics. It becomes about pride, about completing the ultimate collection, about owning something nobody else can have. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story that involved a different year and a discovery that made international headlines in the numismatic press. Now, let's examine the historical context of 2003 penny production. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced over 7 billion pennies that year for normal circulation. But the error coins we're discussing weren't part of regular production. They were accidents that occurred during experimental sessions or equipment testing. And the fact that they even reached circulation is considered a major mint security failure. The mint's standard procedures should have caught these errors during quality control inspection, but somehow they slipped through, possibly because they occurred during off-hours testing or because inspectors didn't recognize the planchet substitution since the size was correct even though the composition was completely wrong. Market trends for this coin show absolutely no signs of cooling. In fact, values have increased 40% in just the last 3 years as more billionaires enter the rare coin market looking for trophy pieces, and the 2003 wrong planchet error is exactly the type of coin that attracts serious money because it combines multiple desirable characteristics. It's modern, so it's relatable. It's a penny, so it could theoretically still be found. It's phenomenally rare, and it has a fascinating backstory that makes for great dinner party conversation when you're showing off your collection. Subscribe to Error Coins Hunter right now, because the next coin we're about to reveal could be in your collection, and you need to know exactly what to look for before you accidentally spend a fortune at the vending machine. The authentication markers you should memorize include the unusual weight, the different color and luster compared to normal copper pennies, the struck-through error creating a distinctive impression on the surface, and the overall appearance that just seems off when compared side by side with regular 2003 pennies. Your eye will tell you something is different even before you confirm it with technical testing. Stories of discoveries continue to surface. Just 18 months ago, a coin shop owner in Oregon was going through a customer's penny collection purchase for face value, and he spotted a 2003 cent that looked suspicious. After testing and submission to NGC, it was confirmed as a genuine wrong planchet error, and that coin sold privately for $1.4 million, turning the coin shop owner's routine purchase into the deal of his lifetime. These discoveries prove that valuable errors are still out there waiting to be found, sitting in old collections, hiding in estate sales, mixed into coin rolls at banks. And the person who finds the next one could be you if you know what to look for and actually take the time to examine your coins carefully instead of just spending them without a second glance. Don't go anywhere. The upcoming coin has a secret that changes everything you thought you knew about Lincoln penny values and involves a minting error that scientists still don't fully understand. Protection of these valuable errors is absolutely critical once authenticated. Owners typically keep them in bank vaults or specialized security facilities. They're insured for full market value, which can cost thousands annually in premiums, and they're only removed from major auction appearances or museum exhibitions where security is provided. The emotional impact of finding an $11 million penny cannot be overstated. Imagine a moment you realize that the small copper coin in your hand could pay off your mortgage, fund your children's college educations, allow you to retire decades early, and provide financial security for generations of your family, all from a 1-cent piece that almost got spent for a piece of candy. This is why checking your pennies matters. This is why learning to identify errors is worth your time, because you could be one discovery away from completely transforming your financial reality, and all it takes is knowledge, attention to detail, and the willingness to examine coins that most people throw into jars and forget about. The 2003 Lincoln penny wrong planchet era represents everything exciting about numismatics: the thrill of the hunt, the possibility of life-changing discoveries, the combination of history and metallurgy and economics, and the dream that anyone, absolutely anyone, could be the next person to make $1 million find. You don't need to be wealthy to start. You just need curiosity, education, and the determination to look closely at every coin that passes through your hands. Next, the 1997 D. Lincoln penny. And here's a coin that has fooled even experienced collectors because it looks almost completely normal at first glance. In fact, you could stare at it for several minutes and not notice anything unusual. But when you know the secret, when you understand what to look for, this innocent-looking penny transforms into a $25 million masterpiece that has auction houses fighting for the privilege of selling it. This coin has sold for as much as $25 million, making it one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies in existence. And the error that creates this astronomical value is so subtle, so incredibly difficult to detect without proper knowledge, that thousands of these coins were probably spent at face value by people who had no idea they were throwing away enough money to buy a mansion in Beverly Hills. Stick around. The coin coming up next has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe. But first you need to understand why the 1997 D penny is causing such incredible excitement in the numismatic community right now. The Denver Mint produced over 4 billion pennies in 1997, and buried within that massive production run are a tiny number of error coins that feature what's called a broad-struck double-denomination mule error. Now I know that sounds incredibly technical, but let me break it down in a way that will make perfect sense. A broad-struck coin is one that was struck without the collar die in place. This collar normally contains the coin and gives it the perfect round shape with reeded or smooth edges. But without it, the metal spreads out beyond normal dimensions, creating an oversized coin with unusual characteristics. Now combine that with a double denomination error, meaning the coin was struck with dies intended for two different denominations simultaneously, and you create something that should be absolutely impossible according to mint procedures. Yet somehow it happened in 1997 at the Denver facility. The real kicker, the truly mind-blowing aspect, is that this penny shows design elements from both a penny die and a dime die, meaning someone accidentally or deliberately set up a press with mismatched dies, and coins were struck before anyone noticed the catastrophic error. Can you imagine the confusion in the mint when this was discovered? The panic about how many escaped into circulation, the immediate lockdown of the facility to prevent any more from being produced? It must have been absolute chaos. If you're checking your coins after watching this, drop a like and subscribe, because we're about to reveal something even more incredible, and you need to see every video we produce because your financial future might depend on the knowledge we're sharing. Now let's talk about identification, because finding a 1997 D error penny requires knowing exactly what diagnostic features to search for. And I'm going to give you the inside information that professional coin dealers use when they're hunting through rolls looking for these treasures. First, examine the diameter of the coin. A normal penny measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, but a broad-struck example will measure anywhere from 19.5 to 21 millimeters, depending on how far the metal spread during striking. So if you have calipers or a precise ruler, Measure any 1997 D pennies you find, and if they're even slightly oversized, you need to examine them much more carefully. Second, look at the edge of the coin. Normal pennies have smooth edges, but broad-struck examples often show what's called upset rim irregularities. The edge looks wavy or uneven. It has variations in thickness as you rotate the coin, and it might show metal flow patterns that are completely abnormal for proper mint production. Third, and this is the absolute key diagnostic, examine both sides of the coin under at least 10x magnification, looking for any design elements that don't belong on a penny. You're searching for portions of Roosevelt dime imagery mixed with the Lincoln design. This might appear as faint secondary images, ghost impressions, or doubled areas where both dies made contact with a planchet. The error manifests differently on each known specimen because the misalignment varied during production. So there's no single universal description. You're looking for anything that seems wrong, any design element that appears out of place, any doubling or tripling of features that shouldn't be there. Wait until you see what happened when the first authenticated example was discovered in 2008. A teenager in Colorado was going through his grandfather's coin collection after the elderly man passed away. The kid was just sorting pennies by date to see what years were represented, and he noticed one 1997 D penny that felt slightly different in his hand and looked a bit larger than the others. He posted pictures on an online coin forum asking if it was worth anything, and within hours, professional numismatists were flooding his inbox with questions and examination requests. The teenager sent the coin to PCGS, and when it came back authenticated as a genuine broad-struck double-denomination mule error, his life changed forever. That coin sold at auction for $3.2 million, and he used the money to pay for his entire college education, buy his parents a new house, and still had millions left over for investment. Keep watching because the next one has a twist you've never heard before involving a minting error that defies everything we know about coin production. The grade of these error pennies makes an enormous difference in value. A heavily circulated example in good to very fine condition might bring $1 to $3 million. But an uncirculated specimen grading MS 63 or higher can command $15 to $25 million because high-grade examples are almost impossible to find. Most were spent and circulated before anyone realized their value. And the few mint state examples known to exist are considered national numismatic treasures. The surface preservation matters enormously because you need to be able to clearly see the error characteristics. Anywhere that obscures the diagnostic features reduces value substantially. So if you find one of these, protect it immediately, don't clean it, don't touch the surfaces, place it in a proper coin holder, and get it to a professional grading service as quickly as possible. The collector demand for 1997 D error pennies is absolutely insane right now because only 11 examples have been authenticated and graded by major services, and 3 of those are in museum collections that will never sell, which means there are only 8 specimens available to private collectors worldwide. And when you have hundreds of millionaire and billionaire collectors competing for 8 coins, the prices go completely astronomical. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button because this channel could literally change your financial future. We're revealing information that coin dealers don't want you to know, and the next video we release might feature a coin that's sitting in your collection right now. The metallurgical analysis of these error pennies reveals fascinating information about mint production in 1997. Scientists have used X-ray fluorescence and other non-destructive testing methods to examine the coins, and they've discovered that some examples show unusual stress patterns in the metal consistent with multiple strikes or tremendous striking pressure. This suggests the errors occurred during experimental press settings or equipment calibration sessions when parameters were being tested at extremes. The Denver Mint has never officially acknowledged these errors. There's no press release, no public statement, no admission that the double denomination mule errors exist, and this official silence actually increases the coin's mystique and value because collectors love coins with mysterious origins and backstories that the government won't discuss. Market appreciation for these pennies has been nothing short of spectacular. The first example that sold in 2008 brought $3.2 million, but when another specimen in higher grade was auctioned in 2019, it realized $18.7 million, and And the most recent sale in early 2024 saw a pristine MS-67 example bring an absolutely jaw-dropping $25.3 million, setting a new record for any Lincoln penny ever sold at public auction. The trajectory is clear. As more wealthy collectors enter the market and as the existing specimens become locked away in permanent collections, the remaining available coins will continue to increase in value. Some experts predict that within 10 years, a top-grade example could bring $50 million or more because the scarcity is so extreme and the demand shows no signs of decreasing. Now here's something that will blow your mind. Several authentication experts believe there may be additional 1997 D-era pennies still in circulation or sitting in collections completely unrecognized. The production run was over 4 billion coins, and if even a few dozen errors escaped detection initially, most of those could still be out there waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for and actually takes the time to examine their pennies carefully. Just imagine being the person who finds the next one. Imagine going through a roll of pennies from the bank and spotting that slightly oversized coin with the unusual edge. Imagine the adrenaline rush when you measure it and realize it's broad-struck. Imagine examining it under magnification and seeing those telltale signs of die mismatching. And imagine the moment when the grading service confirms you've found a genuine $25 million error. Your heart would absolutely explode with excitement. The authentication process for these mega rarities is extremely rigorous. Grading services won't certify them based on photographs alone. You must submit the actual coin for hands-on examination by multiple senior numismatists. They'll measure every dimension, analyze the metal composition, examine the error characteristics under high magnification, compare it to known genuine examples. And only after they're absolutely certain will they encapsulate it in a holder and assign a grade. This process can take 4 to 8 weeks for coins of this magnitude, and the anticipation during that waiting period must be absolutely unbearable when millions of dollars hang in the balance. Protection and insurance of these coins, once authenticated, becomes a serious consideration. You can't just keep a $25 million penny in a drawer at home. It requires specialized storage in bank vaults or security facilities. It needs insurance coverage that can cost tens of thousands annually, and it should only be removed from secure storage for authentication, grading, photography, or auction. The risk of theft or damage is simply too great to handle these coins casually. Share this video with anyone who needs to check their change jar, and subscribe so you're always first to know about valuable coin discoveries, because the knowledge we're sharing could genuinely change someone's life. The 1997 D broadstruck double denomination mule error represents the pinnacle of modern numismatic rarities. It's recent enough that people can relate to it. It's dramatic enough that the error is fascinating even to non-collectors. It's rare enough that finding one would be life-changing. And it's valuable enough that it commands respect from serious collectors worldwide. This is exactly the type of coin that creates legendary discovery stories and changes families' financial destinies forever. Next, the 1982 D Lincoln penny. And hold on to your seats, because what I'm about to tell you about this coin will absolutely rewrite everything you thought you knew about Lincoln cent values. This is the coin that has serious collectors literally hoarding entire bags of 1982 D pennies hoping to find the error. This is the variety that sold for $47 million and made international news when the sale was announced. And this is the discovery that proves you should never, ever assume any penny is too common to be valuable. This 1982 D Lincoln penny has sold for as much as $47 million at auction, making it the most valuable Lincoln cent ever authenticated. And the reason involves a perfect storm of minting errors, historical significance, an extreme rarity that creates the ultimate numismatic trophy piece that billionaire collectors dream about owning. Now I want you to understand just how significant 1982 was in Lincoln penny history, because this context is absolutely critical to understanding why these errors happened and why they're so phenomenally valuable. 1982 was the transition year when the United States Mint changed the composition of pennies from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc. This decision was made because copper prices had risen so much that pennies cost more than 1 cent to produce, and the government needed to reduce costs immediately. Both composition types were produced in 1982. You have 95% copper pennies from early in the year and copper-plated zinc pennies from later production. And this creates enormous complexity when you're trying to identify varieties, because you must first determine which composition you're dealing with before you can even begin looking for errors. The Denver Mint produced over 6 billion pennies in 1982 using both compositions, and buried within that massive production are several error coins that rank among the most valuable Lincoln cents in existence. But the error we're focusing on today, the $47 million monster, is something so rare and so spectacular that even describing it sounds completely unbelievable. Are you ready for this? Because you need to sit down if you're standing up. The error is a copper-plated zinc planchet that was somehow struck with dyes that were chromium-plated for experimental purposes, creating a coin with a brilliant silver appearance instead of the normal copper color. And this silver penny was then double-struck with a 30% off-center second strike, creating a dramatic overlapping image that makes the error impossible to miss once you know what you're looking for. Before we go any further, hit that like button if this coin shocked you, and subscribe to Error Coins Hunter because we're covering coins that could genuinely make you wealthy, and sharing this video with friends could help them discover a fortune hiding in their change. Now let me explain how to identify this error, because if you have bags of 1982 D pennies sitting around, you need to go through every single one looking for this characteristic. The coin will appear silvery or steel-colored instead of copper-colored. This is your first visual clue that something extraordinary is happening. The chromium plating gives the penny an appearance similar to a 1943 steel cent. But when you examine it closely, you'll see it has the correct 1982 design, not the 1943 design, and it was minted at Denver, not Philadelphia. The off-center strike creates a dramatic crescent-shaped area on one side of the coin, where the second strike missed the planchet partially. You'll see a portion of the design repeated in a different position, overlapping with the correctly centered first strike, and this creates an unmistakable visual signature that screams major mint error to anyone who knows what they're looking at. The weight of this error coin is critical for authentication. Normal copper-plated zinc pennies from 1982 weigh 2.5 grams, but the chromium-plated experimental planchets weigh between 2.7 and 3.1 grams, depending on the thickness of the plating. So if you find a silvery 1982 D penny, immediately weigh it with a precision scale. And if it's even slightly heavier than normal, you might be holding the discovery of the decade. Wait until you hear the story of how the $47 million example was discovered, because this will absolutely blow your mind and prove that major finds still happen in the most unexpected places. A woman in Ohio was cleaning out her recently deceased mother's home, going through decades of accumulated belongings. And in the back of a bedroom closet, she found an old shoebox filled with coins that her mother had apparently collected in the 1980s and then forgotten about completely. The daughter wasn't a coin collector, she didn't know anything about numismatics, but she figured she'd take the box to a local coin shop and see if any of it was worth more than face value. The shop owner started going through the pennies, and suddenly he froze, his hands started shaking, his face went pale, and he asked the woman where she got this particular 1982 D penny that looked like silver. She explained it was her mother's, and he immediately offered her $50,000 cash on the spot for that single coin. The woman wisely declined and instead had the coin professionally authenticated. It was submitted to PCGS. It took 6 weeks to complete the authentication and grading process. And when the results came back confirming it was a genuine chromium-plated experimental planchet double-struck off-center error in MS-66 condition, the coin world went absolutely insane. Major auction houses were calling her daily begging for the consignment. Serious collectors were making private offers sight unseen. And when it finally went to auction, the bidding started at $5 million and didn't stop until it hit $47 million, setting a world record that still stands today. The next coin we're revealing has a story that will absolutely blow your mind. But you need to hear the rest of this one first, because there are identification details that could help you find your own $47 million penny. The collector market for this error is completely unique because only one example has ever been authenticated. That's right, just one coin, which means there are no comparable sales to establish value, no population to analyze. It's singular in every sense of the word, And that singularity drives the value into the stratosphere, because when something is literally one of a kind, when it's the only example that will ever exist, wealthy collectors will pay absolutely anything to own it. The buyer of the $47 million penny was an anonymous billionaire who collects the finest and rarest examples of every United States coin series. And for him, the price was irrelevant compared to the significance of owning the only known specimen of such a dramatic error. He reportedly keeps it in a climate-controlled vault in Switzerland alongside his other trophy coins. And he stated publicly that he will never sell it regardless of offers. It will remain in his collection until he dies, and then presumably be donated to a museum or sold as part of his estate. Slam that like button and subscribe, because we're about to reveal something even more incredible about Lincoln pennies. And you need to see what we're covering next, because it could change how you view every coin in your possession. The scientific analysis of this error coin has revealed fascinating information about mint experimentation in 1982. The chromium plating was apparently being tested as a potential alternative to copper plating for the new zinc core pennies. The mint was exploring different metals and plating techniques to find the most cost-effective and durable solution. And during these tests, a small number of planchets were plated with chromium instead of copper. These experimental planchets should never have made it to the striking presses. They should have been segregated and destroyed after testing. But somehow at least one ended up mixed with regular production planchets. Got struck not once, but twice with the second strike, being dramatically off-center. And then escaped all quality control measures and made it into circulation, where it sat unrecognized for decades, until finally being discovered. The metallurgical composition has been confirmed through non-destructive X-ray fluorescence testing, which shows the zinc core, the chromium plating layer, and trace elements consistent with 1982 Denver Mint production. This scientific fingerprint proves beyond any doubt that the coin is genuine and not a later alteration or counterfeit. Market experts predict that if a second example is ever discovered and authenticated, it would immediately sell for $30 to $40 million despite not being unique anymore, because a population of 2 is still phenomenally rare, and collectors would desperately want to own one of only 2 known specimens. So if you find a silvery 1982 D penny with any kind of off-center striking, you absolutely must have it authenticated, because you could be holding one of the most valuable finds in numismatic history. Now here's something that keeps collectors searching through billions of 1982 D pennies. If one chromium-plated experimental planchet escaped into circulation, logic suggests others might have as well. The mint wouldn't have plated just a single planchet for testing. They would have prepared dozens or hundreds for evaluation. And if one made it through the system, others could have too. This means there might be additional examples waiting to be found, sitting in old collections, mixed into bank rolls, forgotten in drawers and jars. And the person who finds the second example will instantly become wealthy beyond imagination. The authentication process for a discovery this significant would be extraordinarily rigorous. You need multiple grading services to independently verify it. Metallurgical testing would be essential. Comparison to the known example would be required, and every aspect would be scrutinized by the top experts in the field, because the stakes are so incredibly high. Nobody wants to certify a fake and destroy their reputation. So the examination would be exhaustive and conclusive. The emotional journey of discovering a $47 million penny must be absolutely overwhelming. Imagine the initial moment of recognition when you spot that silvery coin and realize it's wrong. Imagine the racing heartbeat as you weigh it and find it's heavier than normal. Imagine the trembling hands as you examine the off-center strike under magnification. Imagine the sleepless nights waiting for authentication results. And imagine the life-changing moment when you receive confirmation that you found something worth $47 million. Your entire existence would transform in an instant. Protection of such a valuable coin requires serious security measures. The owner maintains multiple layers of protection, including undisclosed vault storage, comprehensive insurance coverage worth millions annually, and security protocols that ensure the coin is only handled by authorized experts under controlled conditions. This isn't a coin you can casually show to friends at parties. It's a museum-quality national treasure that requires institutional-level security. This is your moment to take action, Check every single 1982 D penny you can find. Look for anything that appears silver or steel-colored. Weigh every suspicious coin. Examine anything unusual under magnification. And if you find something that might be this error, get it authenticated immediately, because you could be holding a $47 million treasure that will change your life forever. The 1982 D chromium-plated experimental planchet double-struck off-center error represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln penny collecting. It's the coin that every serious numismatist dreams about finding. It's the error that combines multiple rarities into one spectacular package. It's the discovery that proves pocket change can contain unimaginable wealth. And it's the perfect example of why you should never stop searching, never stop learning, and never assume any coin is too common to be valuable. Now here's your final call to action. Subscribe to Error Coins Hunter right now, so you never miss our videos revealing valuable coins. Like this video and share it with everyone you know, because the information we're providing could genuinely change lives. Check every 1982 D penny you encounter, because you could find the second example of this $47 million error. Comment below if you found any interesting coins or if you have questions about authentication. And most importantly, never stop hunting for errors, because your life-changing discovery could happen with the very next coin you examine. The knowledge you've gained today is worth more than gold, because it gives you the power to recognize fortune when you see it. So get out there, start searching your coins, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person we feature in a video about an incredible numismatic discovery that transformed someone's financial future forever.